Hey guys, I'm your host Dr. Dennis and you are watching GWENT News. In this week's episode we are gonna take a look at some competitive GWENT tournaments that are coming, and also we are gonna take a look at some top memes of this week. For this week's episode I have some great news. With the GWENT News we've got a big shout out in Twig by Pavel Burza and the CDPR. So I'm really grateful for that, and I want to send you with this video one big thank you to Pavel and CDPR for having me in their video. And my stonks after this went up just like the Syndicate stonks when you played Sigurd. For this week's episode we have 3 special guests. One of them being BabyJosus, who brings us his Garnicura deck that he has been very successful with. He has reached 2,497 MMR with the deck, and currently his win rate is 22 wins and 8 losses. The other 2 guests are Crozyr and Miss Lady J. They together discuss the possible balance changes and review your suggestions of some balance changes. This month was stormed by the Bottle Cap Challenge, and Devil Driven took Geralt of Rivia to participate in the challenge too. I'm gonna be starting a show on YouTube where I'm gonna be doing montages of how I edit the leaders. You can check it out in the future on my YouTube channel under the name of Dr. Dennis. In the last week's tweet we learned the dates of the new challenger. It's gonna be on the 14th and the 15th of September. Some people might say it's a bit too late and that we were expecting the tournament to take part sooner, but in the meantime you can visit the Team Artuses tournament 10th Cup that takes place on the 20th and the 21st of July in Warsaw. Gwentmasters have tweeted out the names of the 8 participants that are gonna be taking part in the new Gwent Challenger. Some of the names are Etikov, Sailbot, Colmon or Freddy Babes. On Friday, when I was browsing Reddit, as usually, to gather some news for the GWENT News, I've come across a really nice post that took my attention and I really had to open it. It was a post including arts of the Thronebreaker by Yusuf Arton, and it's really incredible. The cities and the battlefields look really amazing, so I decided to bring you this link down in the description, and also some preview of some images right now. If you are interested in Savitro music, you might want to check out Drantes' cover of the Outskirts of Novigrad. It's really amazing, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of a preview right now, and you can find the rest of the song down in the description. Gamers, we need to rise up and riot at the gates of CDPR. Vesistits got nerfed and they are not so wiggly anymore. We need to do our part and riot so they get nerfed back. This was pointed out by one Reddit user and got a lot of attention on Reddit. So I think it's the high time we take our part and riot in the right cause. If you are looking for some nice decks to grind to pro rank, you might want to check out the TLG's Meta Snapshot. Down in the description you can find 2 other deck guides by me. I've been using these 2 decks to grind from rank 5 to rank 2, and I'm aiming for pro rank. Now for the guests. I'm presenting you Miss Lady J and Crozyr, who are gonna bring their insights on the new balance changes, and also they're gonna review some of your suggestions of some balance changes.
Hey everyone, this is Miss Lady J, Siri and Crozyr.
Hello!
From the faraway lands of South Africa, and we've come to you to talk a bit about fan-made cards and suggestions that have been made to change cards that exist, and so that GWENT becomes even more awesome and cool. And it's a bit of a makeshift setup here, you gotta excuse us. So we're gonna discuss some ideas that were passed around on Reddit, and while Siri's eating me, and maybe I want to say something real quick. I like Syndicate a lot, and I think the new bronze strength that is kind of established in that faction, the default strength for bronze cards, is more enjoyable to play because you're actually playing good cards throughout your entire game and not just dropping bricks left and right whenever you have a shitty bronze you can get rid of in your hand. So I think having stronger bronzes in general is good. Obviously Syndicate has stronger bronzes right now than the other factions, has to be balanced. So, based on that thought, let's look at some of these suggestions and see if we can agree or disagree with some of these things. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at one card from each faction, and besides Syndicate, because their bronze is already fine, and say and talk about suggested changes or entirely new cards that I brought in for the factions, and explain how we feel about them and why we like them or dislike them or think they should be a bit tweaked still. And we start with Northern Realms and the Lyrian Lansknate. Now the Lyrian Lansknate is a card that doesn't see lots of play anywhere, even in decks like Meath, which the card is built for. The thing is, it almost always dies, and then the payoff for the card isn't really good enough. In case you don't know, it hits an enemy unit by 3 if it is boosted. Otherwise it hits it only by 1. So it's basically like a Wild Hunt Hound, but with a condition that has to be boosted, and it's an order unit, so it's kind of difficult to set it up. And the solution, and that was suggested here on Reddit, I think, is quite good. Give it formation, so that if you play it in melee and you play Meath, you can just play it as it is, and immediately it's going to deal damage. Really reliable. You need to keep your Meath charged for it, of course. That's kind of the condition then. But it's a way to make the card work, and if you don't think you need it immediately, you can still play it in the back row and use it then. So I think that would be quite a good and simple change for the Landscape, and I think that's the kind of treatment that many NR cards read now. Like, not all of them, but just give a couple more of them formation, especially those that don't see play at all, and then maybe that's going to take the faction a step further.
Alright, next card for Scrat is Farseer. Farseer that now does you reveal one card from a deck, and if it's a special, then boost off by 2. So the suggestion is draw 2 cards instead of 1, and if one of them is a special, then boost by 2. And I think it helps because now that there's a limit on how many special cards you can have in your deck, so it normally relied on, most of the times, no unit decks. This will help look for another special card in your deck.
Yeah, so in general this might be a kind of treatment that you want to give to a number of cards that rely on a more or less no unit deck, or maybe Farseer was also included in some unit decks, but then it never really got its ability through, so that's also kind of pointless. So just help the cards that are reliant on no unit decks, like Syria Nova for example, and change their abilities, tweak them in some way to make them more usable. So the next suggestion would be for monsters to add a bronze Crimson Curse. I think the suggestion was actually to make Crimson Curse itself bronze. I don't think we need to do that. I think the card itself is so flavorful it should be a gold card, but I think monsters should get a card that has a Crimson Curse row effect as a bronze version in with not as potent as Crimson Curse itself, so maybe it only affects 1 row, or it doesn't affect the row for as many turns, but to have Crimson Curse is such a cool ability, you know, it's so flavorful to buff your own stuff on your own rows. Just something that makes it easier to play that, and then you can have more vampire cards that actually benefit from this effect as well. Of course, you got to find the right provision slot for that kind of thing. It depends on how long the effect is supposed to go through, but I think that would be a nice way to bring that mechanic more to the forefront, because I think not just visually but also gameplay wise it's quite cool to have your things boosted all the time on your set of the row.
Next card is for Skellige, and it's Tursich XMen. So the ability now is destroy an enemy unit that is, when it's at half power, half power.
Yeah.
So the suggestion is damage by 1 before triggering the ability, which could help with the card to get it down to its half power and then destroy it. So if a spear tip is at 7, then you can damage it by 1 first to 6 and then destroy it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you could also set up Bloodthirst that way. So, and like, how do you remember XMen from back in the days? It was...
Oh, XMen back in the days in beta would boost by 1 for each damage dealt. I think it's to the same row, opposite row?
Yeah. And...
so people would use like weather, and then for how many cards were damaged it would boost by 1. So if 3 cards were damaged, it would boost by 3.
Yeah, it's kind of a fan favorite, right?
Yeah, that's my favorite deck.
So in general it was like or it's like what we would like to see is to have fan favorite cards like from back in the days, like XMen, or fan favorite cards from the lore, like Lambert, that are completely in the dumpster right now, like Lambert or XMen, and there's a couple more. To see some kind of treatment when they're doing a balanced pass like this, try to look at the cards that the community really likes, right? Where they have so many memories using them, and they don't want to see them gone completely, like the X-Men right now. Give them some love so that we can play them. I don't expect every card to be reworked all the time, but just those all-stars, right? I wish that CDPR would take a second look at some of these cards, and I know Bane is going to give us an upvote for this one, for Lambert, to give them some more love. And then finally, this one's a new card. It's not from the same thread, it's a different one. It's Mortyson, a suggestion for a character called Mortyson, a gold card for Nilfgaard, which is 4 strength, and which ability says gain shield when you control a soldier. Let me actually make sure it's a Dalen professional streamer. If you control a Dalen soldier, gain shield, so it's a bit more protective. You already have Dalen soldiers on the board. And then it has an order ability that says spawn a Dalen soldier and summon him to this row. So you basically make Dalen soldiers, and it has a cooldown of 2. So every second round you can make a Dalen soldier, unless you play a soldier that decreases the cooldown by 1. So you can make a Dalen soldier every turn. It's basically a Dalen soldier making machine. It's an engine. And it could be a nice win condition, right? To fill up your board with Dalen soldiers, and then you either use bone talismans to buff all of them, or reamed, of course. You could maybe imagine this in an Emir. Maybe it's a bit of overkill, but you've got like 8 Dalens on the board, and then you just double reamed or something. So it opens up to nice ideas. And while this card, it doesn't have a suggestion for the provision cost, it would be quite high, right? Is interesting and very flavorful, and I like the idea of filling your board. I like swarm decks, like fill the board with all the fancy things and then boost a buff, and it like looks really flashy. I'm not entirely sure how much I would like this card in particular, because it's a general thing with cards in Gwent, with engines in Gwent that are that have very strong effects like this one. They either kind of win you the game on the spot, or they just get removed and you've just lost like 11 provision to a remove 4 point, like to a bomb or something. Like if that guy doesn't get shield and you want to get the ability through, and it's like 11 provision, then you just lost, like you traded down by 7 or 8 or something because you played this card. And if it's like a surprise attack and people don't keep their removal against Nilfgaard, and then hey, all of a sudden you swarm the board, then that's gonna work, but that kind of feels cheesy every time it happens, right? If it's not a surprise deck, if it's in the meta deck, then people are going to be prepared for it. It's never going to go through because there's always going to be removal for it. And in general, I rather see engines that are somewhere in the middle, and that can do solid value, but that don't completely win or lose the game based on the fact, based on the question if they get removed or not. The same is true for things like Foltest Pride or Kian, and that's kind of where I see cards like this. But I like the flavorful design of this one. So I think, unless you have further thoughts,
No.
this was it.
Yeah, this is it.
This was it. So yeah, happy Gwent news, everyone, and greetings from Africa. And we'll see you soon. Pretty sure.
Bye.
Bye.
Last but not least, we have BabyJosus, a great friend of mine, that brought us his Garnicora decklist that he's been grinding in the pro rank.
Hello everyone, and I'm glad you're still watching this video. My name is BabyJosus, or as some people call me, BJ. I know it's a funny pun and you can laugh at it, but hey, I'm quite proud of it, and I'm quite proud to make this video guide for you guys. So Dr. Dennis, he asked me to make a video guide for my Garnicora list, because I had quite a success with it, and I think the win ratio is 17 wins and 5 losses right now. Which means that I almost got 2.5k with my monster faction. By not having the Chrome package, I was able to play the old Spirit Up and the old Spirit Up Asleep. I tried the Chrome package, but I did not have a lot of success with it. So my main focus with the deck is to have a lot of Tribe units on the board and then play the big boys. We're running Katagon for Tribe, we're running 2 Wyverns for Tribe, we're running 1 Drowner for Tribe, 2 Neck Warriors and 2 Neckers. So lots of Tribe units and a lot of big boys, because yes, aside of Old Spirit Up and Old Spirit Up Asleep, we're also running Pugo, Griffins, Osril and Ghoul. So it's really easy to trigger the drive. You can also trigger the drive with a Katagan and with a Protoflatter. Protoflatter also adds some control to the deck. It can easily remove a bronze engine like a Arbalest from Northern Realms or like a Witch Executioner from Syndicate. Aside of that, we're running Nilfgaard to make sure you find the gold cards in the deck. We're only running 8 gold cards, so Nilfgaard easily finds the gold card that you're looking for or that you're just simply missing in your hand. We run Geralt of Rivia to deal with tall units. In some matchups it's not very nice to have this in your hand, and then you can just mulligan it away, but in some matchups it's really nice. It can actually win you the game. For example, if you play against Gudrun. Gudrun runs Bincy, and Bincy, if you don't do anything about it, it's gonna get out of hand. And having Geralt of Rivia as an answer is really nice. Because if you have him in hand, or you get him from Nilfgaard, it just means that you're gonna win that matchup. If you don't have Geralt, then you might lose the game. So it's really nice to have this in the deck. As I mentioned before, we're running Osriel. Usually use it on the Old Spirited, but you can also run it on Pugo if you have this in hand. And Pugo you usually use on the fruit, but in some scenarios, when you have the Neckers, or one Necker in hand, and one Foglet in hand, and one Griffin in hand, you want to play fruit, Neckers, Pugo, Foglet, Griffin, in that order. And I did the maths, and it's better to play Pugo after the Neckers, otherwise you lose a point. So I wanted to give you that little bit of advice when playing this deck. We're running 2 Griffins, 1 Ghoul, which it's very likely that you're gonna get value out of the Ghoul and the Griffin. And we're not running Ice Giants, so we are only running 1 Ghoul. We have the Wildland Riders and the Foghets for tinning, and the Drowner. And the Drowner can help you against row restricted units like the Borsodi Brothers or Imke or Tax Collector when you're playing against the Syndicate faction. There are more examples in other factions, but I'm not going to talk about those. So yeah, in that case, you can just play the Drowner on the AWOld Borsodi, for example, and then they cannot do anything with it anymore. So that's why I'm running 1 of these. You could consider playing 2 of these, but I think 1 of them is fine. Instead of that, we are running Plumbards, and one general advice to give to you guys is that if you have 1 Plumbard in hand and you have some mulligans left, don't mulligan the Plumbard, because if you mulligan a Plumbard, you might draw another Plumbard and then you lose value on the bonded ability. So my advice is to mulligan, for example, Neck Warrior, because if you draw the other Plumber, then you simply get more value out of those bronzes. Running 1 Arcaspore as the filler, but sometimes you use the Griffin on it, and that can be good because then you trigger the Death Wish of dealing 2 damage to a random enemy unit. So yeah, that's the deck, and I hope you're gonna have as much success with it as I had. And if you want to watch me see this deck in action, if you want me to see this to play this deck in action, then just follow me on Twitch under BabyJosus, and I hope to see you there. Or if I don't see you, have a nice rest of your day, and thanks for watching, and have fun with the rest of the video.
And this concludes this week's GWENT news. Consider subscribing and liking the video, and also check out the guests down below in the description, and also all the other links linked down below. Thank you for watching.